everybody. It's good to be here with you today. My name is Aaron Salsek. My pronouns are he, him. I am the coordinator of Direct Admissions Minnesota at our Office of Higher Education. It's a privilege to be here with you to talk more about how direct admissions as a program can interface with competency-based high schools and alternate models of grading. I'm joined today by a phenomenal colleague. Amanda, if you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
Yep, I'm Amanda Citron from Terra Nova School. I'm a school counselor, and Terra Nova School is a competency-based program. And so we've been working with the Office of Higher Ed for the last 2 years to participate in their direct admissions program.
Yeah, thanks, Amanda, and thanks for your leadership and support of students and families through the program as well. So today we're going to be talking about direct admissions, which is a growing national phenomena across the country. But the essence of what we're going to cover is Minnesota's unique direct admissions program. It's really exciting in that we have perhaps the most comprehensive direct admissions model across the country. That's on both sides, I would say, of the secondary as well as the post-secondary spheres or realms of the program. And so to give you some examples of how that works, we work already with competency-based high school. We also have, for the first time this past year, our first parochial high school participating in the program. And a colleague of mine, Raphael Eubanks, our tribal liaison and director of tribal relations, and I will be looking at how we can scale equitably and also perhaps participate in tribal affiliated high schools as well over the next several years. So we're really excited about the growth in the program. The other sort of realm, the post-secondary side, we have every type of higher education institution participating in the program, and that's really important to us. That includes our tribal colleges, our 2-year community and technical colleges, our 7 state universities in the Minnesota state system, 4 of the 5 University of Minnesota campuses, and also 15 of private colleges and universities across the state of Minnesota. So we're pretty heavily saturated in the higher education realm. And as many of you attending know, we have a very rich landscape of higher education in Minnesota that we're proud of. That being said, and perhaps not the best pride point of the state, there continues to exist pernicious, pervasive, and persistent gaps in higher education attainment. And so admissions in its simplest form was created as a policy to streamline college admissions access for all of our students who participate, because we do believe that all students are college capable. This program seeks to sort of counter that persistent gap in higher ed attainment across race, ethnicity, free and reduced lunch, and it also seeks to affirm students by leading with, yes, you are college capable, we believe in you, and here's your list of institutions that already agree to admit you based off of what we know about you. Rather than sort of the old college admissions paradigm of you apply, you wait a long time, you're not sure what's happening, you might hear back, and if you hear back, it's not always in the affirmative. And so at its simplest core, the question that I often pose for others to reflect on is, how much college-going knowledge is required for a student to go to college? And if your answer is little to none, then you are a proponent of direct admissions. And so it takes what is literally one of the more complicated processes of college access, which again, the National Association for College Admission Counseling assessed, and students at yet another year said that college admissions was one of my most stressful points this particular senior year. It tries to undo that complicated process. We do so by sending a student notification early in their senior year to students that has a list of all the institutions that agree to admit them based off of known criteria. And I'm going to cover what some of those are. Colleges are on board. We have 55 participating institutions across the state. In terms of the student notification for our competency-based partner high schools, we are at 54. I'll cover the one outlier and our plan moving forward. So again, this process, this program seeks to streamline admissions by extending proactive admission to students at the outset of their senior year. Um, there were some concerns as we formulated the program about everything from like student slide to student progress, so on and so forth. As a cabinet level, a state level agency, we assess everything. So we've assessed a lot of these concerns that have not borne out, and so we don't see any difference in student behavior in terms of maintaining their GPA. And as a matter of fact, these expectations that you can see in front of you are laid out specifically for students. So students are expected to maintain their approximate academic performance. They're expected to graduate. And we really encourage that students take advantage not just of the selection of the colleges and learning more about them, but then taking those next steps for college admission itself. We also, as a sort of a sub goal of the program, really encourage students to complete the free application for federal student aid or the Minnesota Dream Act application. As we know, the sort of understanding at admission to college is part one. The understanding of how one will afford a college education and affordability of their college education is sort of part two. And so we're taking a more active role in financial aid education as the program scales across the state. You can see that we are being successful in much of this. Our initial data is proving extremely exciting, and you're among the first group to learn that while we haven't released our legislative report yet, it's going through ADA compliance review at this time. These numbers more or less were maintained for this year and increased actually for a lot of students. So really exciting work and future for the program, largely because we do see differences in college going taking behavior around things like applying to college at all, applying to college within the state of Minnesota, students completing one of those two forms, either the free application for federal student aid or the Minnesota Dream Act. And you can see that because of those things, and actually because they've persisted this year as well, um, we really feel strongly as an agency that this should be available to all of our high schools who are interested in implementing it for the benefit of students and families. So how does direct admissions work? And more particularly, how does direct admissions work at a competency-based high school that doesn't have an unweighted cumulative GPA assessment per se? And so I'm going to cover sort of high level, and then I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Amanda, who has done this work actually for the last several years as a program participant. In terms of broad program operations, again, it leads with yes. And as we know, many of us who are counselors, educators, administrators, when you lead with yes, students meet and often exceed the bar. And so this program is no different. When you lead with yes, it takes away the self-selection bias. It provides students with more understanding of college choice. And it really, I think, inspires or further validates that motivation that students already have, and they just carry it through. So quite frankly, I'm really excited to see some of our data next year, which will be the first sort of graduating class of direct admissions high school students. So we'll have more on that in our legislative report next year. This program is funded by the legislature, and there are some criteria by which we would consider high schools should there be more interest than we're able to sustain. The good news is we have literally not turned down a single high school who's been interested in participating in the program. And so if you're interested, I'd encourage you at the end of the slideshow today to consider applying. And we'll talk more about the contracts as well as the data sharing agreements that are part of the program as well. There is no cost to high schools to participate, although I do want to be clear that there is some time in terms of setup as well as sort of promoting the program. So while there's no direct costs, maybe there are some indirect costs to folks to participate. What I'd just say though is that we as an agency, and this is a large part of my role, we enter into joint powers agreement contracts by which we help fund you some money to run anything from like a college going activity. It could be like a college visit or a pizza party and a selection night, or you can offset costs to counselor time. for implementation of the program. It's not a huge amount of funding. I want to be very clear about that, but it is a gesture of goodwill for starting up the program and conducting the academic review and so on. As I've said, students do get a personalized list of colleges and universities that are committed to admitting them. That list can be anywhere from um, no fewer than 28 institutions up to 54, depending on what academic tier a student sort of falls into. And we'll sort of explain that in a bit. As I've said, the list includes colleges and universities from all across Minnesota. At this time, of the list of participants, Bemidji State is excluded from the competency-based high school list, but myself and other colleagues from the agency have had a continued and sustained dialogue with them every year. And colleges have the opportunity every year to sort of change that decision, of which I'm hoping they will consider doing that this year. So it's the same slate essentially as those high schools that are on the unweighted cumulative GPA rubric. This program does apply to general admission, and it's not necessarily for some of those specialized majors like nursing or inland underwater welding that might have like a wait list or a capacity. That being said, it's still so encouraging when students get that list of options and so inspiring enough so to move them forward in many instances with institutions that they literally had never thought of as an option in the future. And so lastly, before moving on to sort of the steps involved in the program and then turning it over to Amanda, this would be for your juniors now who will be seniors at the start of fall this upcoming year. In terms of the broad overview, this is sort of the essence of what direct admissions would play out for most of the high schools across the state. And so I'm going to highlight where the shared similarities are between competency-based high schools and secondary schools that use unweighted GPA, and then Amanda will speak to some of the nuances on how the academic review is conducted at a specific competency-based high school. Regardless of where you are across the state and your grading model, everybody enters into two contracts. The first one is the data sharing agreement by which we can exchange the 12 to 14 basic fields about a student. And those fields include everything from first name, last name, Mars ID, and so on. So really basic info that we, through secure file transfer, will, as the data clearinghouse, OHI, for lack of a better analogy, as the data clearinghouse, we will take that info from the high schools and then redistribute it to the colleges at a very quick timeline. This could be anywhere from 2 to 7 days. The other contract that's required is the joint powers agreement. And by that contract, that allows the sharing of funds from us to you for the college going activity that I had mentioned earlier. The second requirement for all high schools is that mandatory Tennyson FERPA notification go out to all seniors, sort of informing them that this program is taking place, that the high school is a direct admissions participating high school, and it shares the data fields and so on that are going to be exchanged between high school, office higher ed, and then the colleges that the students self-select. This is really the opt-out part of the program. And so I want to emphasize that because should a student or family choose not to opt out, they are automatically in the program insofar as they're a senior student at a participating high school. They don't have to take action. There actually is a selection box that I'm not interested in direct admissions. Really happy to report for the second year in a row that number is the smallest. It's almost like negligible, less than 1%, close to 0%. So point in case though, this is the opt-out part of the program. We also have, for everything that I'm talking about, I want to emphasize we have trainings, documentation, agency support, and materials, resources for you at each step in the program pathway. So part two is really where the nuance starts for our competency-based high school. So I'm just going to really quickly mention the model, but then know that it's different for folks who have an alternate grading method. So high schools will then notify families that is the same, but the rubric for most high schools is a student's unweighted cumulative GPA. We do have an alternate model that we'll discuss at length here in a second with Terra Nova that it, could be adapted or adaptable to your high schools should you choose to participate. For step 3, once students receive that notification, they take action on their survey by literally checking boxes on the institutions to receive more information about being proactively admitted to. It is literally that simple. We then take that information and then the institutions or colleges that the student selects, those are the ones we distribute their information to for the next steps in direct admissions. Students respond and then take any action on next steps communicated to them. High schools, transmit the data to OHI. This is really quite a passive step that Amanda can speak to. It doesn't really take much on our high schools to do that any longer. And similarly, 6 and 7, the compilation of student data and its redistribution is really our agency's one of our primary roles. And then the colleges take it from there in terms of following up and sustaining dialogue with students, and honestly developing super early relationships with students in terms of their next steps, excitement around college, and everything from campus tours to events and so on. So in terms of the high school level, there's more or less 6 steps. We're going to dive into one more deeply in a few minutes, but it's really a review of a student's end of junior year academic performance, notifying students at the outset of their senior year of those options after the FERPA notification. As all things at the high school level, reminding students of the opportunity to take advantage of the program, to respond to the email that they get, and so on. So nudging. And then really 4, 5, and 6 are pretty passive for you all. We sort of take it from there, but the collection of student data, the redistribution, and then the last thing, which is no different from your normal process, and also no different from college admissions processes, but the sending of a student's official transcripts to those colleges that they ultimately select. 2 really quick key metrics that I want you to be aware of. Sometimes I've heard concern about a student can select any and all, hypothetically, of the institutions that are on their notification. So that's quite a few, right? 28 to 54. We had heard some concerns about that, and so we assessed the average student response, and really excited that students are being super judicious in their college-going search. I wasn't surprised by that, but it's nice to be able to support that with data. We have nearly 20%, it's actually 18% of students who only select one institution by direct admission, and the median is 4, which is actually below the national average of 7 college applications by students. So excited to report that. It relates to the transcript notion because just want to give you a sense of what you'd be sending per each student. It's not out of the norm for students. And so if you are a visual learner, like myself, I always like to include these images. And this is sort of a rough cadence of how the data flow plays out. I do want to be very transparent. This data flow might change a little bit next year. We are looking at centralizing the survey sending in a way that would reduce the time that counselors need to invest in totality in the program, essentially allowing counselors to focus on the academic review and the promotion to students, whereas OHI, Office of Higher Ed, will send the surveys and even more quickly redistribute that to colleges. So more to come. Like I said, we do trainings for high schools admitted to the upcoming cohort of 2025-2026. We have information sessions throughout the month of March. Consider this your information session for being here today. And then we'll be taking applications to the program cohort through April 15th of this year and have a series of trainings in May. So know that there's lots of support. I'm always available to you too. So without further ado, and also giving full credit to one of our champions of direct admissions, I'd like to turn it over to Amanda Citron. And Amanda, I'll go just keep piloting the PowerPoint.
Okay. Um, Here I am. So a few years ago, we signed up for the direct admissions program. And when we started, we were like, all right, so yes, we'll participate in this. Quick catch, no GPA or class rank. And luckily, Office of Higher Education was generous enough to spend a lot of time with a school of our size. I mean, we have graduating classes between like 15 to 20 every year. So we know that in the long scheme of things, we're small potatoes, but we know what we're doing is important work. And so we're really excited that we were considered on this. And then we did a few work sessions with OHE and various colleges to develop our own proprietary tiered system. And I will say that as I was going through this with some schools last week, I was at the MAP conference and talking with a few folks about this. And, you know, if you're a competency-based program already and have been doing college admissions, you've been finding ways to maybe create a GPA or things like that out of some measures at your school already. And what I found is that a lot of the things that you're already using to develop that are the things that we also put into our rubric. So one thing that we did was learning target acquisition. So are they on track to graduate? Electives, are they doing really complex, creative, deeply engaging electives? Are they taking, you know, extra sciences beyond their 3 years of science because they know that they're going to be going into a science field? Are they taking calculus? Are they going really into their entomology stuff because they're a future entomologist and so they're doing extra bug pinning projects or whatever it might be? Like if they're really taking a deep dive into their passions, that's what we're going to be marking as a 3. Standardized testing. So that's that little nugget that, you know, we're all participating in MCA testing. A lot of organizations have their own local assessments. We participate with NWEA. So we have that information as well. And then should students take the ACT, we have that information. We also have a life skills assessment that Terra Nova uses with our students twice a year. And that measures a lot of non-cognitive skills, a lot really along the lines of like Castle's 5 competencies. You know, do they have time management? Do they have social skills? Can they collaborate? So like executive functioning and soft skills all kind of combined together. And I think our college admissions folks were really receptive to that because, you know, that's what creates a successful learner. So, you know, we don't have grades to demonstrate that these students are engaging in those skills, but what we do have is the direct measure of those skills. And so we were able to use that to support their college admissions. And I think that usually, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, more of the traditional schools will have a 6-tiered system. Ours was whittled down into 3 tiers. And so we just made our rubric represent that. And then it just kind of, anybody that was on tier 1 and 2 in a traditional system go into our tier 1, 3 and 4 go into tier 2, 5 and 6 go into tier 3. And we've only had 2 years. And like I said, we have small graduating classes, but we haven't had anybody opt out. And we've had a lot of success with this. The other measure that we use for our direct admissions is PSEO, because we do have really successful PSEO students. We have a good number of our kids participate in that program and find great success. And so there's not really any better measure of college readiness than PSEO itself. So we weight that pretty heavily in the students' readiness for college and in this direct admissions process. And then the last piece of it is just an advisor advocacy piece, that if they're, you know, 2.5, do we round up? Do we round down? And this kind of, in my mind, takes the place of a letter of recommendation, that we know that in the fall, when kids are doing college applications, all of our advisors are getting bombarded with letter of recommendation requests. School counselors are spending a lot of time writing letters in their office. And this piece is kind of the quick and dirty of like, are they, can I, is there progress? Does their skills, does this number actually represent them? Or can I advocate for something better, a higher level, or should they go stay down at the lower level? And the thing that we remind all of our staff about when we're going through all this is like, we don't want to overinflate our students' numbers, right? Because we want them to find a college that they're going to be successful in. And so we know that those community colleges have a lot of support systems built in, and a lot of times the class sizes are smaller. People get to know each other by name. And then the larger the institution, sometimes those supports are still there, but maybe not as closely knit of a community. You kind of start having larger lecture sizes and all that kind of stuff. So we want to make sure that we're setting kids up to access an institution that they're going to find success in. So this is the rubric that we've been working off of.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Amanda. That was a great overview, and we'll have tons of time at the end to talk and sort of dive in and think around Terra Nova's rubric and also application for other competency-based high schools and models. Before we do that, I just want to wrap up with some program supports, and then also this is for students. So I want you to see some student testimonials and also feedback that we've gotten from students over time. And so firstly, suffice it to say, there's tons of support for you here at the agency, but I also want to reiterate, and I hope that Amanda's example of the agencies working and collaborating really speaks to this, but this is a dialectic. You know your students best. We're here to help with college access. That is our function as an agency. And so don't ever hesitate to reach out to me directly or to, we send out surveys annually asking how the program went for you, what was the student's experience. We do that with our colleges too. Be very candid in those surveys because we are constantly tweaking as the program is evolving and starting to settle and saturate across the state. So that being said, there's lots of resources online. The first one is the program's website at the agency itself. We also have some supports in terms of toolkit, a marketing page to support counselors and administrators who are implementing the program, including everything from pieces that you can order on OHE, so pieces that you can order on us that will ship to you, digital pieces, social media. It's however much of that you want to integrate into your local direct admissions, culture planning, and so on. We also built out a student center over this past summer, and I'd encourage you to take a look at that later on. It's a beautiful, streamlined piece, lots of videos on explaining what the program is for students and families, on financial aid, and so on. So check that out as you have time. As I've said, we have tons of trainings, and I try to be cognizant of the fact that you all are counselors, you serve students first, and you don't have a ton of time. And so the trainings are usually short. They're about an hour. I record everything too, and they're available shortly after being conducted, so you can access it, so you wouldn't have missed anything per se. We have within the toolkit program manuals, as well as resources in terms of a task and timeline document. All of our trainings, like I said, are recorded, but if you want to start sort of looking at some of those, our YouTube channel has the history of the program dating back several years. I have virtual office hours. I'm available as often as and quickly and frequently as you need me to be. And then in terms of the last several, really excited. We have a monthly newsletter that starts with the tasks of the month, so to speak, and then more context around each of those tasks. We have several advisory groups that inform the work and direction of this program. And so there's a K-12 advisory group, a post-secondary advisory group that sustain the work and help, with everything from governance to accountability to ideation. So there's channels there for you to participate in and sort of influence the direction of the program too. Office of Higher Ed staff, as evident by my colleague Raphael and I being here today, we are available to you as well. And then this year, this has been one of my favorite developments of this year. We have communities of practice. So We have high schools that have been in the program for at least a year, serving as mentors and available in these forums, these virtual forums, where new high schools can come, ask questions, bounce ideas off, everything from marketing or how'd you use your funds, stuff like that. So really exciting that took off this year. And as I said, this program, like we're excited. We talked about logistics, operations, how it runs, but it's really about students. And I still love just hearing student stories, listening to their narratives, and knowing that this program for a short while was perhaps a part of that trajectory. So it is promoting a college-going culture throughout the state. We know that students are connecting earlier with the colleges and also just in general, the wraparound college infrastructure that is necessary and helpful for them to be successful. I liked how Amanda had situated it. It's not just about college admission, it's about college attainment, success, graduation. And so, we are tracking that too as an agency. I want to be very clear about that too. It promotes all award types. I think that's an important feature, so it's any post-secondary attainment, be it certificate, diploma, associate's degree, bachelor's degree. Other benefits for students who are navigating the program, all colleges as a part of this program agree to waive application fees. So I'll say that one more time. All colleges as a necessary part of being in direct admissions agree to waive application fees. So that's one tangential. The other one they agree to is it's sort of immediate and proactive follow-up with students that they receive via direct admissions. And to give you a sense of where we're at, this program has been around for several years. This year's class of over 7,000 students taking advantage of the program, which is about 23% of all eligible seniors, we are nearing 48,000 requests for proactive admission. I'll say that one more time. 7,000 plus students making nearly 48,000 requests for proactive admission across Minnesota. It is wonderful. It is macro level. There's a lot of impact. But at the end of the day, it's students that we do the work for. And so don't take my word for it. Go to our website. We joke often at the agency that every one of us have cried at least once, went out in the community, talking to students. And honestly, Ella did that to me. We were at Monk College Prep Academy, sharing her story, dancing with her sister in her room. Check out the video when you have time. But this is what I hear time and time again. I hear it from students. I hear it from counselors. And again, you can hear it from them. I didn't think I was going to college. I didn't know I was college material, which breaks my heart. But then I also hear, and now I'm going to Century or St. Cloud State or Hamlin. The other thing I hear more often than not, and I hear this a lot from counselors too, is if nothing else, it just gives students more choice. So students have a better understanding of the options available to them, including institutions that they had no idea were even in the landscape of Minnesota's higher education options. So it is a wonderful program. We are seeing student impact. And as I've said multiple times, students are in the driver's seat. Students choose to participate. Students choose their selections. Students choose when to discontinue relationships with colleges. And so if nothing else, the fact that it's lodged in student volition is really important as well. And so in terms of what's next, like you're here today, obviously that was a big step forward. I'm just going to leave this up on the screen for a second if you want to pull out your phone and generate the QR code. Otherwise, like I said, I'll be sending this slide deck to Amanda right after this for redistribution as well as the video. But the first step really is to make sure that you're on the interest form list on our website. That list demonstrates initial interest. It's time-stamped. Just in the event that we ever did have to go to sort of a wait list for the program, which again, we've not had to do ever. So go ahead and put your name on the interest list. And then I actually do have the application ready as well. And so we'll be taking applications for the upcoming year's cohort all the way through April 15th. That is a hard deadline for a number of reasons. The primary one are the contracts that are required as a part of the program, which we try to get you before the start of summer. And the second is the mandatory trainings that we do throughout May. We know that model works. I hate turning away high schools after that date. However, we saw substantially reduced attrition in high school success this fall. And one of the correlating factors are the number of trainings and benchmarks that we had set up for high schools. And so just wanted to say, if you're interested, get on the inquiry list. And then also you can always reach out to me for the application to the program itself. And so I just want to close again with our contact information. We'll have time for questions here in a minute. Amanda and I are very thankful for your time. I'm very thankful for Amanda's time. If there's other questions, I'm happy to answer them, but you've really taken the first step. I've heard at the intros at the beginning, this is for our students and for promoting college goingness. And if that's your sort of mantra and your ethos for being here, I think direct admissions is a wonderful next step for you as a high school colleague and participant in the future. All right, folks, I'm just going to stop the recording here in a second.